go over this topic for us. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks for having me. Yeah, the European model sometimes plays tricks on us. Like you said, my name is Matt Dixon. I'm a meteorologist in the Ag Weather Center. It's been around since 1978. I'm going to pass out some cards. Let those go around. Let everybody know what we do at the Ag Weather Center. Minimize weather-related surprise for Kentucky farmers and producers. So, in this talk, does everyone remember 2007? Freeze damage that year, right? Yeah, not a good year. So, we're going to look back at 2007. Last year was warm too. In 2007, a lot of damage to alfalfa. 2017 wasn't the case, but we actually got colder than what we did in 2007. So the question is why? Why did we not see damage last year? So I got asked by some of the specialists in forages to kind of look into this, look at the weather data, see what happened. And I added this title. You guys have this title in your proceedings, How Growing Degree Days Affects Alfalfa Frost Damage. I added this second one, identifying a threshold to expect significant injury. So looking at the data, we did find a threshold, and I'm going to go over that a little bit. First off, it's raining quite a bit, obviously. Not a lot of happy campers. I do have an issue right now. There was a small animal on February 2nd, came out and saw a shadow and said 6 more weeks of winter. I'm not a big fan of cold weather as it is, but it was in the 80s 2 days ago. So I think we can all agree, I don't think that groundhog was particularly right this year. So, but he's coming back with his, he updated his forecast a little bit. Right there. Except you, Kentucky, except you. Your weather does its own thing. And yes, this is Kentucky. We live in the Ohio Valley. Don't like the weather today. Look at tomorrow. So, start out lately. What's happened? 4.61 inches of rainfall so far in February. This is as of those dry conditions the other day. That's 2 inches above normal. Not good. We usually average 3.68 inches for the month of February. So we're already past that. But you guys saw what happened this morning. Some locations saw 2-3 inches of rain in a very short period of time. Well, here's the 1 week, 7-day rainfall forecast. That's a lot of rainfall in a short period of time. That's 3 to 6 plus inches for most of the state. Now, if you take that, you add it on to the 4 inches or so we've already seen, we're talking 10 inches in some portions of the state. That's going to be a record breaker. So the question is, by the way, I want to say, everyone's dealing with mud. Even the weatherman did get hung up in the mud this past Friday working on a weather station. So Mother Nature doesn't feel sorry for the weatherman either. But these are the outlooks, looking 2 weeks out. February 27th through March 3rd, we got March 1st through 7th. Darker shades of green are higher confidence in the forecast that we're going to see above normal precipitation. We're still in lighter shades of green here in Kentucky. So we're not out of the woods yet. We could still see an additional heavier amount of rainfall going into early March. Hopefully this changes going into April. I can't guarantee that. You guys know meteorology, forecast diminishes fairly quickly after you get out a week. Some might argue 3 or 4 days, but yeah. So, frost freeze headlines. The National Weather Service, they issue freeze warnings. They issue frost advisories. Well, we actually work with them because we tell them when agriculture is susceptible at any point in time. So spring season's coming around. We have green up. We have fruit trees starting to bloom. We take in all that information and we go to the National Weather Service and tell them, look, if it comes down to it and it gets cold enough outside, we need to have headlines. We need to issue freeze warnings. We need to take some precautions, give people some warning. Now, whenever we do this, we tell them to start issuing headlines. Sometimes we go the entire spring. We never have to issue headlines. It stays warm enough. We never have to worry about it. There's other times, like 2007 and 2017, where it gets warm very early. Guess what? That's happening again this year. We haven't started yet, but it looks to be a lot like 2017. Now, the problem with that is this slide. This is frost freeze normals for the state of Kentucky. We have several cities on there. Just to give you an example, I'm going to take Lexington Bluegrass Airport right here. This April 11th date, that's the average last date we see a freeze in Lexington. Now, those dates are going to vary across the state. You see April 8th in Jackson's average last date, Bowling Green's April 5th, so on and so forth. This is based on the past 30 years. But that's 50%. We can see our last freeze earlier than that. We can see it later than that. My point is, if we're starting to issue headlines in March, there's actually a really good chance we could see a freeze up through the middle of April. So it doesn't always happen like that. Hopefully we don't see a freeze this year, but there's always that possibility. So comparing 2007 2017, why did we see damage in 2007? Why didn't we see damage in 2017? So look at 2007 first. We started out the year really warm, 13 to 15 degrees above normal. These are weekly temperature departures. We're normally in the low 40s for highs in January, 15 degrees above normal. We're getting in the 50s. We go into February. It gets really cold. 11, 10 degrees below normal, 3 weeks in a row. So 14th coldest on February. We're back to winter. Old man winter came back to visit us. But then what happens? Well, we're on a roller coaster. We have above normal January, below normal February. Okay, we're seeing this increase going into March. What happened in March that year? You guys remember the last week of March that year? It got in the 80s multiple days. I took this last sentence from my boss's Tom Pretty's write-up that week. It says Paducah's high temperature of 82 on Sunday and London's high of 87 degrees broke all-time records. 87 degrees the last week of March. That doesn't happen very often. As such, all-time record high. Normally see those June, July. But then Easter Sunday comes around. First week of April. Arctic air filters into the region. Temperatures plummet. How far did they go? They got in the low to middle 20s for most of the state. So we went from 80s the week before to the 20s the next week. 60 plus degree temperature swing. Now, I show you low to middle 20s on here. I put this little box over here. Temperature observations are usually taken 4 to 6 feet off the ground. This is where all these observations are coming from. Now, 4 to 6 feet off the ground, all right, but your alfalfa plants, inches off the ground. So usually you have the skies open up at night, calm winds. It's going to be much colder at the surface than even 4, 5, 6 feet above the ground. So you could probably take these temperatures and even drop them a little bit. So record highs to record lows, very short period of time. Now this just wasn't Kentucky. This was an eastern half of the United States problem. These are the low temperatures, minimal divisional temperatures for that April 2007 cold wave. We had teens here in Kentucky. I showed you low 20s for most of those locations, but the valleys, low-lying locations, we dropped into the teens. All right? You look down Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, they're still in the 20s. You see 30s and 40s in Florida. So significantly cold weather here in Kentucky. So what were the impacts from it? This image, you see all those counties shaded in black. That's the counties declared disaster areas by the USDA Farm Services Agency. Quite the area. Now, how much? What were losses like? Across this entire area is about $2.5 billion. Now let's zoom into Kentucky. How much was Kentucky? About $133.5 million. all right? And this is all because spring basically came 2 to 4 weeks ahead of schedule. Same thing happened last year, and it looks like it's starting to happen this year. So back to 2007. All this information is in the proceedings, but you get an idea of how to classify light frost, moderate frost, and severe frost as it pertains to alfalfa. Light, 27 to 31 degrees Fahrenheit. Moderate, 26, 27. Severe, anything below 26. So in 2007, low 20s, it was a severe frost. Like I said, closer to ground, probably even cooler than that. Now, I found this technical report put together by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the USDA. There's some good quotes in here from Dr. Smith, Dr. Lacefield. Good, well, grass hayfield stands only produce 50% of a normal crop for that spring harvest. Secondly, $45 million in impact to the state's hay production. So I told you $133.5 million in losses estimated in Kentucky. State's hay production accounted for about a third of that. So quite the impact. So we had 2007 happen, very cold temperatures. We got to 2017, and early January that year, 10th warmest January on record. That was followed up by the warmest February on record. Now, I'm saying all these on record, so on and so forth. It's not the past 10 years, it's not the past 20, 30, 40, 50. We're going back more than 120 years. So whenever you see warmest February on record, that's definitely significant. You can also notice red bars above normal temperatures, blue bars below normal temperatures. January and February, this is almost unheard of. There was only 1 week where we had below normal temperatures throughout that entire winter. So it was warm. Once again, we got a head start on the growing season. Everything's greening up much earlier than normal. But then what happened? March rolled around. We had temperatures dropping to the teens at night. Now, if we compare back to where we were at in 2007, I think the general idea, and the same thing with winter wheat, was we're going to see severe damage this year. But that wasn't the case. It turned out all right. I got asked to look in the data. Why? What happened? So I looked at precip, I looked at relative humidity, obviously looked at temperatures, so on and so forth. And I looked at growing degree days, and this one stood out quite a bit. Dr. Townsend talked a little bit about degree days earlier in correlation with pest and whatnot. So growing degree days definition, a measure of growth and development based on air temperature, the heat units. So pretty well, the warmer it is outside, the more growth you're going to have. Cooler it is, no growth. The equation to figure out your daily growing degree days is the maximum temperature. You add the minimum temperature, divide by 2, you get the average, and you subtract from a base temperature. That base temperature is the minimum temperature at which growth begins for a certain crop. Alfalfa, corn, it can be different, so on and so forth. We use 50 degrees as a base temperature in this situation. Just as an example, April 15, 2017, we had a maximum temperature of 83 and a low of 57 in Bowling Green. Do the math, pretty simple stuff. Get the average, subtract 50, you get 20 growing degree days. So we had growth that day. So you can get all this information on our website, weather.uky.edu/dd.php. I've been passing cards around. The website is on there. Just select your county, your starting date. In this case, it's January 1st. And you can get the amount of accumulated growing degree days over time. Just to give you a quick look at one of those counties, Barron County here, February 1st through February 20th. I took a really short time span to make it fit on this screen, but you have growing degree days. We didn't really start accumulating any growing degree days until we got to the middle of the month, and we're really accumulating now how warm it's been. Based on this, February 20th this year, we accumulated 63 growing degree days. So on to the research. This is 2007. I graphed growing degree day accumulations from January 1st on through April. Now, anywhere on this graph where you see the line level out, that's a cold period. So in 2007, I told you we had that February cold snap. It got really cold at that point in time. So we didn't have any accumulations at that point. But then what happened? We got in the 80s in March. Got really warm outside. We saw this graph just launch up to 300 growing degree days. Let's add 2017 in there. Green line now. We had the warmest February on record. January was warm. We went to February. Still very warm outside. We saw those accumulations start jumping. Now, if we're comparing to a base temperature of 50, if we're pretty warm here in February in the 60s, we're not going to see a real big jump, but it is still significant for this time of year. And then what happened? We got to March. We hit those freezing temperatures. You see this line level out again. So you compare where 2017, where that freeze occurred, growing degree day accumulations, and then you look at 2007. 2007, they were much farther along in dormancy. We went 300 growing degree days accumulated in 2007 to 150 or so in 2017. So we were well ahead in 2007 when we did see damage. Here's some data from 4 different cities from that event. 2007, I took Lexington, Bowling Green, Paducah, and Jackson. Through April 8th, growing degree day accumulations base 50 averaged 350 growing degree days. If we go to 2017, the coldest date of that freeze, March 16th, on average those 4 cities were 191. So we were 159 units on average less in 2017. Pretty significant. So 2007, closer to fully breaking winter dormancy, killed back to the crown. 2017 just broke dormancy, recovered. First cut was delayed, but turned out all right. So the takeaway from this, we agreed to expect damage to alfalfa stands when freezing temperatures below 26 degrees are predicted after a growing degree day base 50 value of 300 is reached. So you can use those models on our computer and kind of track for your specific county in Kentucky. Now, what does this mean for 2018? I usually get questions regarding this. So if we're looking at temperatures, growing degree days, temperatures going together, we have above normal temperatures in the forecast through March 3rd on the 6 to 10 day outlook, and we have near normal temperatures on the March 1st to March 7th time frame. We're staying warm over the upcoming weeks, so the upcoming 2 weeks look fairly mild. What we want to stay away from is these dark shades of blue. That's higher confidence in below normal temperatures. So as long as we avoid these colors, we're sitting pretty good. But normals for March are in the middle 50s for highs, middle 30s for lows, so we can deal with that for the most part. So let's put 2018 on that graph with 2007 and 2017. Where's 2018 at? Well, we just caught 2017. Now, something else I did, I took the next week. I took the forecast highs and lows. I put those into the graphic. We're right in line with 2017. Now you might think and say, oh Matt, we didn't see any damage in 2017. We're all right, we're looking good. Well, not necessarily, because that one table I showed you said we had a good chance of seeing another frost or freeze through the middle of April. So, will we see another freeze? Typical meteorologist's answer, I don't know. But we have a hard time looking out past a week. So I want to end it there. I want to tell everybody, be safe this week. We obviously have quite a bit of rainfall. There's a lot of flooding. Some fun facts. I don't know about the fun facts part, but it only takes 2 feet to take 2 feet of moving water to take a car off the road, and 6 inches can take down a human being. So be safe.